Hi, I'm Emily Epp, Manager of Communications at the Cariboo Regional District. Today's video update is for August the 3rd. Just so you're aware, this video update is going to be focusing on fighting fire with fire. There haven't been any significant updates on the fires around Williams Lake since we talked about that yesterday. For detailed information about those fires and all the fires around in the Cariboo, please visit bcwildfire.ca on the Wildfires of Note page. And tomorrow we'll be providing a more detailed look at those fires again. So Mike, first question for you is, when does the BC Wildfire Service use fire to fight fire?
Sure, so thanks Emily. Again, I'm Mike McCulley with the BC Wildfire Service and I'm here in Williams Lake. Obviously fighting fire with fire is a very important and effective technique that we use on a very regular basis. We use small scale ignition operations and large-scale ignition operations almost on a daily basis on our fires. Some of the benefits of that, or the way that works, is that we will often burn off fuel that is left behind within the perimeter of our fire to reduce the risk of the fire flaring back up and spotting over our guard lines. So our crews will go in and burn off those unburnt pockets of fuel that are left within the middle of a fire. We'll also fight fire with fire by building a control line ahead of the fire and burning the fuel off back towards the head of the fire. That way we can reduce the fuel that the fire has in its path, which slows it and again causes it to support our guard lines and also allow our crews to get in a little more effectively and safely and work along those lines. So those are some of the conditions and reasons why we'll use fight fire with fire, and again, very effective technique for us, done on many different scales.
And so one question that people seem to have is just sometimes we hear about controlled burns that escape, and people wonder, well, is that just using the fire with fire, does that just make things worse? Or maybe you could touch on that.
Sure, yeah, no, very good question. And often when we're doing small scale hand burning operations, our crews spend a fair bit of time prepping those areas before they burn. We don't light those fires before we have water in place, and we've done an assessment on the risks. We've made sure it's safe and we're protecting the resources around. In other cases where we have a very large fire moving quite quickly towards a community, we will do bigger scale burn operations where we're using ignition specialists and we're using fire behavior analysts and weather experts to assess that risk, make sure the conditions are just right, and we will go ahead and light those up. Sometimes those do escape, but the fact of the matter is likely that fire would have moved across in that direction anyway. So it's a risk that we're trying to lower by reducing that fuel. Sometimes they do escape, but we don't do those type of burn operations without having a backup suppression support in place. So we will have initial attack crews standing by ready to go. We may have air tankers there to support us and additional helicopters. So anytime we're planning a burn operation of that scale and magnitude, we again use the right people, make sure it's safe, and have backup suppression equipment and supplies on standby in case those escapes do get away on us.
Thanks. And a lot of people also are wondering, when are burn-offs scheduled? Because they see the smoke and wondering if this is planned or just the fire flaring up. Can you talk about that?
Yeah, of course. We know that the public would like to know a little bit more about when these operations occur, and we're making an attempt to do that, particularly here in Williams Lake. We're trying to keep in touch with our operational people so that if they are going to do a large burn-off or burn-out, we know about it and we can talk to you about it. Sometimes though, our crews do very small scale hand burning all day within their operations. As they move across a guard line, they will try to remove that fuel in very little bits and pieces. So we do a lot of burning that happens regularly and often. What they're doing is they're waiting for the humidity to be right, the fuel dryness to be just right, and the winds to be moving in the right direction. If those conditions line up at a moment's notice and they look like it's something that they can do safely and effectively and very quickly, they're going to go ahead and do that burn. And so for those reasons, within our daily operations, it's not always possible to know every day when our crews are burning. We have people have to remember that on the 3 fires around Williams Lake alone, we have over 500 ground crew out there working. They embed that technique within their tactics every day. So very challenging to know exactly when and how all these burns are going to happen. But of course, on the larger scale burns, we're going to continue to do our best to inform the public about them and keep them aware.
Perfect. Thanks, Mike. And if you are wanting to know more information about when burning operations are taking place, the best place is, again, bcwildfire.ca on the specific fire of note page. Thanks for joining us, and stay tuned for more updates tomorrow.